Scott Pilgrim was awesome.
I thought it was a fantastic movie. I definitely thought it was it deserved way more credit than it got. The fact too that it literally was like a comic book. It was a comic book.
It was a living comic book, yeah.
It was a living comic book. Like everything from the comics. I didn't read. Granted, I didn't read all of the Scott Pilgrim comics, but I read like the majority of them.
So, but we're not here to talk about Scott Pilgrim. We're going to talk about. We just saw. What did we just see, fellas? What did we just see?
10
Cloverfield Lane.
Okay. Just right off the bat, surface feelings. How'd you like it?
It was alright.
Just all right.
Yeah.
How about you?
I thought it was decent. I mean, it wasn't what I expected, but then again, kind of going into it, I didn't really expect it to be anything specific. I imagined, with the name Cloverfield in it, I figured it would be some sort of connection to the original, but you really didn't get that. It pretty much turned into almost like an alien invasion film.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like the monster movie that the first one kind of was.
I was hoping that the connection would be very vague, but we could connect all the dots ourselves. And I thought the end was going to be a vague ending, so that we could say, you know what, this takes place in the same universe. Instead, it's kind of difficult to connect it to Cloverfield, and the reason why I saw this was because I love the first Cloverfield. I absolutely, positively love and adore that film. I've seen that film tons and tons of times. J.J. Abrams, Bad Robot, his production company, they were going to do another film, but they said it was like a spiritual successor, and that's all I wanted to know, because I think like what made the first Cloverfield really awesome for me was that I didn't do all the extra viral stuff. I kind of just went into it not knowing exactly what it was going to be, because the way that they presented the film in the trailers, it was kind of very vague. So I wanted to have that same feeling going into this, and maybe if I did my homework a little bit, I would have prepared myself for something that was not Cloverfield. As a film itself, I thought it was really well done. I agree with the one article. I didn't read the article because I didn't want any sort of specifics, but it said that they might have gotten their first nominee for Best Actor for 2016, John Goodman. John Goodman, I thought he was phenomenal in this film.
Definitely.
He was really great in this film, and I wish that if they had called it what I think the working title was called, like The Cellar or something like that.
Something like that. It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I remember it was going under a working title for a while, and then all of a sudden, like back in January, it was like, oh, here's this movie that's coming out in 2 months that no one knew anything about. No information was leaked because it was filmed under something different.
Yeah, and I thought, okay, they're probably evoking a little bit of the Cloverfield spirit from the first one, where they kind of just went, like there was a hype behind it, but they really didn't let us know what we were getting into. We saw the posters, the Statue of Liberty missing the head. We saw trailers that kind of hinted at stuff, but we didn't really know what we were getting into until we saw the film, And I felt like I wanted to have that same feeling, and I probably should have done my homework. I didn't. All I heard was it was a blood relative to Cloverfield, and I was okay with that. You know what I mean? Like I was okay just knowing that it's in that same world. Now, when I saw the film, the entire time I'm thinking, you know what? Even if it turns out that the main, I guess, villain, which is John Goodman, was BSing about the attack outside, I thought at the end it would have kind of linked it to the actual Cloverfield world and say, you know what? There's sick fucks living in this world before the monster showed up, and you could kind of tell stories in that same world that don't center around the monster. That would be cool to have like another kind of like suspense horror film that wasn't Cloverfield that had to do with the monster but was still set in that universe. And one of the best stories you can tell is someone who's crazy about surviving, like a survivalist who built a shelter and finally something happened that required the shelter, but he tends to be a little crazy.
The broken clock being right twice a day.
Yeah, so I thought that would be a perfect story to tell in the world of Cloverfield.
It could have been also one of those things where it's like, all right, Cloverfield happened in this part of the country. This is kind of how they reacted on the other side of the country. This is like they heard maybe they didn't know all the facts, but they heard like, the whispers and like the rumors, and they're like, oh shit. And then this was basically their kind of reaction to like the hysteria that was going on.
You know what I thought would have helped this movie? If there, like, I didn't do much of the viral stuff with the Cloverfield. I think you said you did, Kevin.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so in the film, the film, it was I think I saw like a little comic strip where the Slusho boat found the Cloverfield like egg, and then it became big, and it was supposedly a baby looking for it. Like the monster in the first one was supposedly a baby.
That's one of the things I remember hearing from the original
Yeah,
movie.
it
That
was a
part of
baby
it.
monster, which kind of made it frightening that was a baby, given how large it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I feel like if there wasn't that viral stuff in the first film, and people were left to determine what it was, because at the very end, the last shot of the film, you just saw something crashing into the water.
Yeah.
In the viral campaign, I believe it was a satellite that crashed or something like that.
It was a satellite, because basically what it was in the viral campaign, I can't remember the name of the actual company, but
Slusho.
yeah, that was it. They're the company that was like drilling into the ocean. Basically, like that part of like the viral campaign around that was because of all the drilling, it messed up the gravitational pull, and that's what caused that satellite to fall into the earth. Now, some of the viral stuff that was going on for this movie, one of the things that they talked about, like John Goodman's character worked for Slusho, and he was like one of the people involved with drilling into the ocean. Now, kind of going into this, like based on that, what I was reading, I assumed, John. Like one of my thoughts going into the movie was John Goodman's character was basically kind of almost like was like in hiding, and he was like trying to like avoid responsibility for what happened. That's kind of what I was thinking a little bit. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way, but that's one of the things with a lot of times with like viral marketing is not a lot of times what you see or what you read isn't always what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, well, my thing with the film was that it kind of hit me out of nowhere. Like, I didn't know it was coming, and I just thought J.J. Abrams did it again. They went and filmed, like, a sequel, or a spiritual sequel, as they said, to Cloverfield, under our noses, under wraps. We knew nothing about it, and they were just going to release it into theaters. They're not going to promote it. People know what it is, and I thought they were just saying, you know what? You guys know what Cloverfield is. You guys saw Cloverfield. You guys love Cloverfield. We don't need to tell you what you're going to get. Just know that it's going to have something to do with what happened in the first film, because anyone that's watched Cloverfield all the way to the end credits, there was that message at the end saying that the monster was still alive, the muffled message. So I thought, okay, you know what? The monster wouldn't be relegated to New York, because if I were a giant monster, I'd be like, fuck this, I want to go to Jacksonville, Florida, so I'm just going to walk there, and if I'm a giant monster, that'd take me, what, like 5 hours? 5-6 hours, 5-6 hour walk, something like that, to Jacksonville, Florida, if I want to just go down there and just fucking chill. Because I mean, if Bruce Campbell wanted to go to Jacksonville, Florida, then it must be a pretty
happening place.
It must be a very happening place. I mean, he traded in humanity at the end of Ash versus the Evil Dead to go there. With, was it like for gas money? It was like gas money, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so. If I were a monster, I would move around, because again, you can't stop it, and it's just acting off of instinct. It's probably looking for its mama. So I was thinking maybe the monster was traveling in that direction. It's kind of weird, because in the beginning there was that moment where she was packing her bags, and you saw that tremble, like that like tremor, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
I figured maybe it was like the monster off in the distance or something.
Yeah, I thought like at the end we would have seen like the destruction or the mushroom cloud, because they nuked Central Park in the first film, and I thought maybe trying to nuke the monster caused the air to get contaminated, and like the next Cloverfield film would be a full blown apocalypse piece, but it didn't turn out that way. But we could all agree that Mary Elizabeth Winstead she's the bee's knees.
Yes.
Now,
Agreed.
if you were John Goodman, would you have taken a swing at that? Granted, right, you don't come in creepy. She's there for a very long time. Eventually, you'll become attractive to her.
Not necessarily.
It seemed like he was very hell-bent on anything like that not happening to her.
Yeah, I think it's like a protective dad thing.
I don't think he wanted her to get knocked up, because they only had so much supplies.
Stairs, man.
He didn't want to deal with a baby.
Or maybe, right? Maybe one of the backstory. Okay, was he kidnapping girls? Did he actually have a daughter? Did he lose a daughter? It's kind of weird because one thing that the film did really well is that it set it up so that his story could be somewhat true, even if some of the facts aren't. So maybe he did have a daughter, but that particular picture of that girl was not his daughter. It was some girl that he kidnapped.
Yeah.
And I figured what he was probably doing was he's probably playing this whole end of the world shit with his fallout shelter with these girls, and then the end of this film would have been like, oh shit, we really do need the fallout shelter because
something's actually happening.
Yeah, something's actually happening. And man, it's like, I remember I read one thing though on Wikipedia where they said that they might consider doing a straight up sequel to Cloverfield, but they felt like because Godzilla didn't perform very well and Pacific Rim didn't perform very well, that the kaiju film was kind of played out. But I think like the reason why Cloverfield was so successful was because it really didn't feel like a kaiju film. It felt like an interactive roller coaster. There wasn't some guy at the end that came in and said, you know what, the reason why this, and this happened was this. It's kind of like you went on a ride for 90 minutes and then the movie was over. You know what I mean? And I think that's a little bit different than the Godzilla film. That and the Godzilla film, I felt like the reason why a lot of people were lackluster about it was because you had a really cool looking Godzilla fighting a couple of creatures that looked like they weren't finished. They kind of just looked bland, whereas like the old school Godzilla stuff, the monsters were always so colorful and creative. And I felt like if the monsters were a little bit snazzier in that film, it would have been, you know, it would have done better.
That's also one of the reasons too. Like in terms of speaking of like Godzilla and like, you know, and all that, they are working on making the sequel to the new Godzilla movie.
Well, I know it made money.
And I think that's also the response to like that Godzilla was also the reason why Japan's making another Godzilla movie that's coming out like later this year. Because one of the things, I don't know, now again, I don't know if it's true or not, but one of the things I was hearing online is the second Godzilla movie's coming out, I think like next year, or maybe it's later this year, but sometime in the next like year or so. And then the following year, they're supposed to be doing or it might be like other way around, because they're doing a sequel to Godzilla. They're making that the Kong Skull Island, which are making another King Kong movie, and apparently then they're going to make a third movie where it's going to be Godzilla versus King Kong.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true. That was one of the things I was reading online, which I think would be interesting. That'd be an interesting movie.
Well, I will support another Godzilla, and I will support another King Kong, and hell, I'd even support the new Power Rangers, and I would support the Voltron Netflix if it means that we could probably get a real Cloverfield sequel down the road. Because I feel like if they really said, okay, we're going to do an actual sequel to Cloverfield with the monster in it, even if people kind of felt like a little gypped by this one, they'll come back and watch it. I know I will. If I flat out knew I'm getting a monster, right, I will come back and I will be like, you know what, whatever. But this film wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad film. It's just it's kind of like okay, right? Say someone hooks you up on a date with someone, right? And they say, okay, well, she's gonna be 5'2", she's gonna be petite, and she's gonna be really, really sassy, and she's cute. And then you meet her, and she's 6'1", and she's kind of shy, and she's kind of introverted. It's like, but she's still a cool chick. It's just like
it wasn't quite what you expected.
Well, you weren't expecting. So if I had prepared myself for a 6'1", introverted, kind of shy chick, I wouldn't have proposed a first date being something so exciting that it would kind of like make her feel a little uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And towards the end of the movie, you guys saw me. I was sitting there and I kind of looked like I was a little upset. And I think the reason why I was a little upset was because I know what this ended up being. And this is my theory, right? J.J. Abrams, we all know, love him now, Lost, Cloverfield, Star Trek, Star Wars. You know, we like the guy, right?
Yeah.
His name's attached to this project as a producer. Now, you saw his friend Drew Goddard and Matt Reeves, who are also involved with the original Cloverfield. They went and did another film. They did a small independent film that cost a few $1 million to make. I'm pretty certain what happened was they were thinking to themselves, you know what? If we just market this as what it is, people will not see it.
It probably would have been direct to video or direct to Netflix.
Or it probably would have bombed. Especially in this month where we have Batman vs Superman coming up at the end of the month. You know what I mean? Which is gonna make some crazy money.
Oh, absolutely.
So they thought to themselves, you know what? No one's gonna see this film unless we give it something to put it over a hump. So let's put the Cloverfield name on it. It's not Cloverfield 2, but it's 10 Cloverfield Lane. Let's put that there. People will assume, because of the names attached to it,
It has something to do with the
yeah,
original.
something to do with Cloverfield. And if you have a film that costs like maybe, because I think it only costs like $5 million, $10 million to make this film, where the original Cloverfield costs like $15 million or something like that. So you have a movie that's $10 million. Anyone that knows anything about the film industry, in order to break even, say this film,
You gotta double.
well, it's $10 million production budget, right? Then factor in, I don't know, they weren't very flamboyant with the marketing. So let's assume they spent like $4 million in marketing, $5 million in marketing. So you have a $15 million film, right? In order to break even, you need to make $30 million. In order to make a profit, you have to make more than that. Now you take a small $15 million film that may not have made its money back, you put the Cloverfield name on it, and you hope that all the people that love the original will come back, check this one out, and maybe you'll have like a big weekend opening, like maybe like 50 million, 60 million, and that way the film ends up being a success, right? And the premise of the film is so ambiguous that you could barely show people anything, and you will think, wait a minute, maybe it is Cloverfield. They're in a little fallout shelter. Maybe there's something going on outside. Maybe it's the monster. Oh, it's a smaller budget. Maybe we're just going to get parasites, and we didn't even get that. I don't know what happened at the end, but spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what happens and you want to actually go see this, I'm about to spoil it. She fights a giant organic alien fucking ship with a lighter and a bottle of booze, and she blows up the ship. And then, which I thought that was a little bit over the top, and then it was like, okay, so.
But also think of it this way too, because I mean, obviously, like this is involving like aliens. Maybe the events of what happened in the original Cloverfield is what brought these aliens to Earth. That could be something. That could be something as well. That could possibly be a connection that they'll make maybe in a potential third one, if they do end up going with a third one.
Or you know what? Probably they thought as a company, maybe people didn't do the viral thing, and because a lot of people, their theories at the end of the film was that the thing that crashed in the ocean behind them, they thought it was the monster crashing on Earth.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't, but a lot of people who didn't do the viral marketing, that was their theory. Because then it gives the monster more like an alien feel and not so much an earthly feel. One thing that it could do to fix it would be like, maybe, right? Maybe the aliens put the monster here, hid it away, thought that human beings weren't going to go mess with it. We did, monster comes up, and then aliens come to Earth.
Now the aliens might be coming to basically as almost like a cleanup crew.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Because like that chemical that they were spraying was supposed to dissolve our organic life.
Yeah, so I mean that could be something.
They were fumigating. That was like a pesticide, but
yeah, but they
maybe.
that
Well, here's the thing: the parasites that were on him, right, were just like he just had fleas. So what would have been cool, right, is if that monster at the end were parasites in that ship were fumigating the area, because in the first film, the parasites that fell off of him, they wasn't like, I'm a monster and I'm dropping these parasites to get people. He had fleas. He had like parasites on him that just fell because he just came out of the ocean. So it would have been cool if we got the parasites at the end, and then we got the ship is trying to like kill them, like a can of Raid. And that would have actually kind of been cool. Like,
that would have been an interesting twist.
All I would have needed was just to see a parasite from the first film, and I would have been okay with the aliens and everything like that, because
the aliens being here would actually help us.
Or what if also too that thing that was crawling on the ground at the end, maybe that's an evolved form of that parasite.
You know what? That would be cool too. I think the one thing that J.J. Abrams likes to do is he likes to put things out there with no explanation. It kind of makes you do your own theories, except for Lost when he explained shit towards the end and then it kind of lost its mystique. It's like, who was a smoke monster? Oh, it was that guy with the eyeliner. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, if I would have just gotten something that would have been a solid connection to the first Cloverfield, and then they left this like, and they kind of left it ambiguous like they did at the end,
Yeah.
I would have been cool with it. But right now, because I like to think I'm a fairly intelligent guy. That's actually a lie. I think I'm very intelligent, but the cynic in me thinks J.J. Abrams helped elevate a film that his buddies wrote by using the Cloverfield name and tricked us into thinking it's Cloverfield so that they can make some money. Because I guarantee you, right, now that people are talking about the film, the drop-off for next week is going to be tremendous. Because people are going to be like, oh, wait a minute, it's not a Cloverfield movie? It has nothing to do with the first one? Nope. And then people won't go see it. Like, guys like us will try and connect it and have fun with it, but the average moviegoer will be like, you know what? This is bullshit. I got duped, and I don't like it. So I guarantee I'm going to check the numbers like on Monday, but it probably made a nice amount of money. But the minute people start talking about it, that's how a movie survives. Normally, when a film is good, word of mouth will propel it. Like, for instance, Scream. It didn't do that great its first weekend, but everyone kept saying, hey, you got to check this movie out. This movie's cool. I don't want to spoil anything. This movie's awesome. And then it became a new horror classic. You know, you could put Ghostface up there with Norman Bates, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael
definitely.
Myers, Chucky. And
Like that character has become almost like a classic movie monster.
yeah,
even though
a
it wasn't
classic
like a
Halloween costume, you know what I mean? It has its own TV show now. They're going to continue the movies in comic book form now that Wes Craven passed away. That should be kind of cool. And yeah, I mean, it has its own legacy now. And that first film, I've seen it recently. It still holds up and it's still classic to me. You know, it's one of the first movies I saw as a child, and I'm like, oh my god, I think I like horror movies a lot. You know what I mean? And this film, no one's gonna go see it next week. So basically, and then so what people are gonna say? Well, next week is season 2 of Daredevil. Just watch that on Netflix. And then the following week is Batman versus Superman. Everyone's gonna go see that.
Yeah.
So it's like, this movie's gonna get crushed. But I feel like they just wanted the big opening weekend to get their money.
Yeah.
And then they'll apologize to us later on down the road by making an actual Cloverfield sequel, which I hope they will do.
If they end up doing an actual sequel to Cloverfield, I think it would suit better. They ditch the camera
Oh, the subjective camera?
Yeah.
and then do like an actual
Well,
movie.
Dude,
Like,
I mean,
like
remember?
with the Blair Witch.
Yeah, well, the first Blair Witch was
Kinda.
like subjective camera, and then the second one's like an actual movie.
Yeah.
And I'm probably one of the only crazy people on the planet that actually love the hell out of Blair Witch 2. I love that film.
I enjoyed it.
It kind of felt like,
Yeah.
like that's what I would do. That sounds like a fun weekend. Let's go see where this creepy movie was shot, and then creepy shit actually happens to us. Now, I would like that without the murder, but with the orgy with the goth chick and the Wiccan.
Yeah.
I would have enjoyed that. I actually own Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, and I watch it all the time, so it's kind of cool. And I hope if they do a Cloverfield sequel, that they make an actual film, because the way I look at it, right? What if Cloverfield was an actual film world, and it was just someone using a camera in that film world to film the events? So you could always just say, well, it's a film world, because everything is a film world when you're doing film. So I don't think people would be like, well, the first one had to be perspective, because if you look at George Romero's Diary of the Dead, which I think gets better and better every year, because the more and more I watch that film, the more and more we evolve with our technology. I'm like, yes, if a zombie apocalypse did break out, people would be videotaping everything, regardless of what happened.
Absolutely.
When it first came out,
Imagine
smartphones.
selfies with a zombie.
Yeah.
Well, it was just like look at a movie like Strangeland that came out back in like 98, like 97, 98, and that was like before the internet and all that was huge, and like so that basically predated a lot of the internet craze with social media that kind of.
And there was another one called Fear.com.
Yeah, which wasn't as good, but yeah. You know what I mean? Even like Strange Days did a lot with the subjective camera and stuff like that,
yeah.
and how that might factor.
That was
if we ever
considered revolutionary.
Yeah, if we
at the
ever
time.
actually got that technology, we probably use it for a lot of the shit that was going on in that film.
Yeah.
So my thing is all right. I feel like making a Cloverfield an actual film would probably work really well, actually, and I think a lot of people would be on board with it. because it didn't faze me at all when I saw they were making Survival of the Dead. I'm like, okay, cool, it's an actual movie, and I didn't feel there was a drop off between the two films. The two films have very different messages. You know what I mean?
As it's pretty much every Romero film or any one of his zombie films.
Yeah,
They always have different
yeah, I mean that's why his zombie
commentaries.
films are so great. I mean, you know, you could just kind of like Diary of the Dead, like Land of the Dead had to do with terrorism, or it was around that time, and you know, class warfare and stuff like that. Then you look at Diary of the Dead and how we become so in love with the image that we're putting out on the internet that we will protect that image even in the face of danger. Like okay, to even nail this home, I don't want to say something insensitive, but I have to say something really funny. There was this black woman who was in a car with her mother and her aunt, and the car is getting shot up, and she was streaming on Facebook. She's like, "Oh my God, they're shooting up the car! Oh my God, oh my goodness, I've been shot at it! I've been shot at it!" Then when the news, yeah, I know it's funny, right? It's hilarious. I'm a black guy, so it's okay if you guys laugh. I give you laugh pardons. But then the news crew showed up, right? And while they were taking the woman away on a stretcher, she had her phone and she was tweeting and texting while on the stretcher, being put in an ambulance after she's been shot. And she's saying, "Oh my God, you guys, it hurts so bad. It hurts so bad. I'll catch up with you once I'm in the hospital, and then I'll catch up with you once I've been discharged." I'm like, you just been shot.
There's a live challenge
put the
for at
fucking
midnight in there
phone on.
somewhere.
As someone who has been stabbed before, right? As someone who has been knifed before, I wasn't like, "Oh shit, let me call somebody like, yo, I've been knifed, and I just want to let you guys know." You know, it kind of
Let me Sophie this shit.
it reminded me of.
Check out the gash.
I remember. Anyone know who Perez Hilton is?
Oh, gee, that fucking pretentious.
You know who Perez
asshole.
Hilton is?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Okay, he went up to will.i.am and said, "You know what? I liked you guys before you got the man singer." And he said that Fergie had a butterface. So will.i.am and his crew beat the shit out of Perez Hilton, and Perez Hilton was tweeting while he was getting his ass kicked. He's like, will.i.am and his crew are kicking my ass. Someone call the police. And I'm like,
Wait, the other Black Eyed Peas joined in?
it was just will.i.am and his crew. So the other guys weren't there.
Yeah, that's pretty much for the par for the course there.
That's fucking hilarious.
Diary of the Dead was right.
Yeah, what would Taboo have been able to do in that situation?
I will say this though.
Breakdance away.
I will say this.
Nobody notices I'm here.
I will say this about Diary of the Dead. They had more dedication.
The police focus on will.i.am and, hey, I'm here too. You can arrest me.
will.i.am fucked Natalie Imbruglia, so I can't talk shit on him because I'd like to fuck her too.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a girlfriend, and I was single, and like 10 years ago, when Natalie Imbruglia had some fame, and it would have been cool to bang an older woman. Not so much now. It's kind of creepy. But Diary of the Dead, I felt like they had a little bit more dedication because they were lugging around big cameras. Like in fucking Cloverfield, he had a little camcorder. And I think it worked in Cloverfield because the guy at the camera was a little bit slow. He's a little bit weird. So he would actually walk around the camera like that. And it got him killed in the end, too, which I thought was phenomenal. I'm like, let's go back for the camera. And the monster ate him, but the camera was okay.
Of course.
He's chewed up. Camera's okay. It's like the camera dropped. And it's just like, let me just wipe the smudge off of it. It's okay. You know what I mean? So they should probably make people out of the stuff they make the cameras in. Cloverfield with. But I'm telling you right now, like, okay, if they do make a sequel to Cloverfield and they do make it like a real movie, would you guys go see it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would absolutely go see it. Even though I was so excited. I'm like, I was like, dude, Cloverfield was almost 10 years ago. Or a little bit more than 10 years ago. Cloverfield was what, like 2007? Almost 10 years ago. Wow. I'm like, Cloverfield, man, or it's 2008, whatever. Cloverfield. I was
That's how
excited.
long I've been waiting for a Voltron movie. That's sad.
You know why Voltron's gonna have a hard time? Because there's Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Voltron they'll never make a live action Voltron movie. As much as I hate to say it, it'll never happen.
Dude, especially if this new Power Ranger film comes out and the guys that did Lord of the Rings special effects are working on the costumes and special effects for Power Rangers.
Yeah, fucking if Weta Studios.
Here's the thing. You know why? The line, it's made up of a bunch of lines, whereas the Megazord is always made up of a bunch of different parts. You know what I mean? And then the Voltron crew don't really do much kung fu outside of the Lion. And Power Rangers, they morph and shit. They have powers and weapons and cool stuff. So it's like Voltron's a little bit of a dated idea unless they could just tell a really good story.
Yeah.
And the old Voltron cartoons aren't notorious for great story. They just wanted to fit the dialogue to fit the mouth and all that stuff.
Voltron,
They didn't even know Japanese when they were dubbing it.
Voltron would not. I honestly don't think would work well at all as a live action. If you want to do like an animated movie, like cool, but as a live action movie, it wouldn't be because honestly, everyone knows who the fuck Power Rangers are. Nowadays.
Power Rangers are all, like even the younger kids because there's a new season every single year practically.
Power Rangers has been going strong since like '91. Like 92, 90.
And the
well,
source material
like
is 73 or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, and plus Power Rangers has the built-in Japanese appeal. So even if we butcher what they've done, they'll kind of see what the screwy Americans are doing with
plus
stuff.
the people who designed like Go Lion and Daireger, they're still working for Toei, designing the mecha.
I really felt
for
like
what will eventually become Power Rangers.
Yeah, I really felt like Pacific Rim set back that whole kaiju kaiju versus mech.
Well, it did well enough to do a sequel.
I mean, you know a reason why. Like the merch sold really well. Like the action figures fly off the shelves. Anything like model kits fly off the shelf.
And it did well in Asia.
Well, of course it did well in Asia. I just felt like if they had spaced that whole story of the first movie into 3 movies, it would have been awesome. But they kind of like try to fit 3 movies worth of stuff into like 1 2-hour movie.
Well, it's Guillermo del Toro. He always tries to like go big.
Yeah, I know, but I would have given him like, I'd be like, here, I'm gonna give you like a bunch of money and do what Peter Jackson did and make 3 movies back to back to back. Because the actors that were in the movie.
So let's take the shortest book, a book that was like about half the size of any of the original Lord of the Rings movies, and let's just like blow up content and like add shit that never existed in the first place, just so we can make 3 movies, so we can be horse.
Well, that's not really the case. I mean, the thing is with The Hobbit, right? The Hobbit's even though it's a small, I've read The Hobbit, obviously.
Of course, so
even though it's a small book, right? A lot of stuff happens in that book, and then also the whole third act of The Hobbit, they just glossed over it. Like the battle starts, Bilbo gets knocked out in the beginning, then he wakes up and Thorin's already in his tent on his deathbed, and all that stuff that happened in the third act really didn't happen. I felt like what they wanted to do, what Peter Jackson wanted to do, is that he knew that he wasn't going to be able to go back to Middle Earth anymore, so he tried to add stuff from the appendices of the other books.
No, I know exactly what they did. Like they added a ton of stuff.
And they needed the battle to actually happen on screen. Otherwise, people have been like, wait a minute, so he gets knocked out and now the battle's over. You know, people complain about Return of the King having like mad endings, but I thought those were all necessary.
People complain about the end of the first season of Game of Thrones. Tyrion was about to go into battle, gets knocked out, and
the one thing I thought that the original Lord of the Rings trilogy they really screwed the pooch on is not so much. I mean, obviously some of the pacing was a little weird, but I think one of the key scenes that they left out of the theatrical cut that they eventually included in the extended cut is the gift giving scene with Galadriel, when Galadriel gave all the gifts, because otherwise if you go and watch like the other movies, it's like they have all these like random gifts. It's like, what happened if they and then especially in the Return of the King when Sam uses the light. Yeah, exactly. Like, that played a big part, like when he was like with Shelob and all that in that area, in that whole spot. If they had explained where he got that from, that whole scene would have made way more sense. Well, and the whole thing, like the hobbits when they were being carried off by the orcs and they dropped their cloaks, like that would have made sense. Like Sam using his cape to basically disguise himself as a rock. That would have made sense. Like, how the fuck did he get that?
Well, here's 2 or 3 reasons that I have for that. One, I think like if you paid enough attention to the theatrical cut, it's like they didn't have that stuff before meeting the elves. Then when they left the elves, they had a bunch of shit with them. Now they didn't get into specifics as to what they were, so that might be a problem later. Also, by the time the 3rd film came out, the extended edition of the first film was already out, and I guess Peter Jackson thought, you know what, well, the people who really love this movie are going to watch the extended, and they're going to get the full experience, but because, for the sake of the studio, I have to keep this movie under 3 hours. And if you just watch the theatrical stuff, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't bother me a whole lot, because as a fan, I own the extended editions. I don't even own the theatrical
Oh,
editions.
so do I. I did the same thing with The Hobbit. Like when the Hobbit movies came out, I purposely did not buy any of the theatrical cuts because I knew there would be the inevitable extended cuts. So that's what I did. I waited for the extended cuts, because I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed The Hobbit. I knew what it was. I knew that they were just going to try to do as much as they possibly can before they said goodbye to Middle Earth. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch was great as Smaug. I mean, I really enjoyed the films. Now, I probably am in the minority, but I watched like all the parts together as a long film, and I actually enjoyed it more as just a long-ass movie than three separate films. Same thing with Lord of the Rings. It's like Two Towers feels so much better when it's like in the middle of those two parts. Because as far as the book is concerned, the book was just one big book. They cut it into 3 books because paper shortage and the printing techniques weren't that great back then. So they cut it into 3 different books. That's why like Two Towers just feels like the weakest one, because it's not really a story within a larger story. It's the middle part of a big story.
Just one like big long battle.
So that's why it, the films work good as a trilogy, because they are reliant on each other, as opposed to saying like the Dark Knight trilogy where all the films are loosely tied together, but you don't really need.
You could see the individual movies,
Yeah.
and they have their own essential contained stories.
Yeah, you could watch Batman Begins and you could be fine. You could watch Dark Knight, you could be fine. You could watch The Dark Knight Rises and you could be fine, to some degree.
I mean, there is some obviously loose, continuality in those movies, but I agreed. But with the Hobbit, with like the Hobbit movies and especially the Lord of the Rings movies, you have to see all 3 of them in a row in order for it to make sense. Because you could.
I ain't got no problem with that. I love those movies.
If you sit and watch the Two Towers without seeing Fellowship, you're gonna be completely lost as to what the fuck is happening.
Plus, you don't get to see Sean Bean die and die and die
Over and over.
I think the reason why he didn't get casted in Wonder Woman the movie, because they originally had him cast, or they were gonna, give him the role, was because he would have to die again. And I think like it's getting to the point now. It's getting to the point now where if we're gonna have Sean Bean in the movie, can he at least make it to the end? Like, do the new Scream movie with Sean Bean in it. It's like, oh shit.
That's why I want Sean Bean to play Marvel at some point, so he could die.
Yeah, I'm scared as to. They say Sly
And he
Stallone's
could be
supposed
made
to
to
be.
at least slightly appear like him.
They say Sly Stallone's supposed to be in the new Guardians.
He is. He was confirmed. He's gonna be one of the Ravengers.
Okay, I'm fine with that because he kind of looks like that now. Even though I love the hell out of Creed.
He's gonna be in the Ravengers. He's gonna be apparently one of the Ravengers. Like I don't know if he's gonna be like Yondu's right hand man type of thing, but also to if you ever watched Sons of Anarchy, Tommy Flanagan, who played Chibs on Sons of Anarchy, he's also was cast in the movie as a Ravenger as well. Probably because apparently because the Ravengers are in the first Guardians, but they weren't like a huge role, but like they're going to play a more significant role in the story of this movie. That's why they're casting bigger names to come in and play the extra characters.
That's cool.
But I'm still curious as to if for definite Kurt Russell is going to be playing Peter Quill's dad.
That'd be cool
Because that has been like the biggest rumor for a long time. So that would be really awesome.
I hope they confirm it so I could do the Woodland Critter Christmas stuff. Kurt Russell, what's going on? They're raping me. No, Kurt Russell. You know what'd be funny? Kurt Russell meets with Marvel Studios to discuss role in film. Kurt Russell, what's going on? They're raping me. They're raping all of us.
And you bring that up regarding a movie that has Rocket Raccoon in it.
You can very easily dub that scene. Dub the names in that scene.
I'm waiting. I'm actually going to do it when I get home. I'm going to take the scene from Mallrats.
Belongs to me.
I'm going to take the scene from Mallrats where Ben Affleck's fucking that girl. He's like, who's your favorite new kid? Call me Donnie. Call me Joey. At the end, I'm just going to show the Batman versus Superman logo. And be like, 2016. I wanted to do that, but apparently people have tried that and YouTube have shut them down, so I'm waiting until it's so close to the movie.
It's been done before.
Well, I had the idea. Well, it wasn't actually the new kid scene. It was I'm going to screw her in a very uncomfortable place. And then someone was like, where? And then they showed him like smirking, like when when Superman asked him, how do you feel about the Bat Vigilante from the trailer? He does that little smirk. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. But they keep shutting them down, so I'm going to wait until like the last minute to do mine so that people could kind of see it and then go see the movie. But so okay, just to wrap everything up, scale of 1 to 10, what do you give 10 Cloverfield Lane? You can't give it a 10 out of irony. It wasn't a 10.
I would say honestly about probably between 6, 7.
I was gonna say 7.
Yeah, 6, 7 sounds about right. I definitely think that we should get together and go see the new Ghostbusters movie. No, I'm not. You saw the trailer finally, because you didn't see it before. You finally saw the trailer and you enjoyed it, right?
It was what it was.
It was what it was, and I remember when the trailer came up, I heard this guy say, "Oh no." I heard Kevin go, "Oh no," and I'm like, "Yep." I can't stand that black chick in the movie. She's fucking annoying.
No, she's probably one of my. The only reason they have, honestly, not to sound like racist.
No,
but
not at all.
The only reason like they friggin' have a black chick in that movie is because they had a black guy in the last movie, so they had to kind of keep that
Winston
whole
was
racial.
annoying. I've met Ernie Hudson. He's a cool dude.
Oh, so have I. I met Ernie.
I got to talk to him
as
about
well.
The Crow. Asked him how Brandon Lee was, and he told a wonderful story about Brandon Lee. You know, because I love the hell out of The Crow. I think it's one of those movies that work for every single holiday, except for, 4th of July. But anyway, so I guess it's a 7 across the board, or a 6 across the board, so it's a 666. It's a 666.
Wow.
It's the mark of the beast.
No.
No, okay, so you want to make it a 7? You want to make it a 7? So how about...
No, I'll go 6.
6?
I'll stick with 6. I'll go with the whole mark of the beast.
6, 7, 6, 7,
I
6?
said 7.
You said 7, so you want 766?
Sure.
Okay, it's a 766. You know what? Fuck it, man. I'm actually I'm still upset that I got tricked into this. So I'm going to say it's a 4 for now, and if I ever watch it again, I can appreciate it for what it is, which probably won't happen. It'll probably bump up to a 5. So it's like a 764. And, I mean, it sucks because I want to support more horror movies, so I guess the next horror movie that... I'm going to go see The Purge, because I know it's a third Purge movie, and it's not them pretending it's The Purge. So that's the next horror film I'm probably going to see and like, unless The Conjuring comes out before that. Conjuring 2.
The Conjuring comes out in June.
Okay, so Conjuring 2.
It comes out. The Conjuring 2 comes out before Purge.
Okay. So you know what's funny? And then we're seriously going to wrap it up for real. Seeing the trailers made me realize something. That new Ghostbusters movie's fucked. You got The Purge coming out beginning of July, right? Then you got the new Independence Day movie coming out in July, and Star Trek Beyond coming out in July.
It'll still do decent.
I don't know. I don't think they did enough differently with this movie to make people want to see it.
I think the fact too that they basically are all the original cast is cameoing in it,
and they're not.
I think that, and I mean, granted, yeah, they're obviously not playing the same characters that they played,
which is so stupid.
But the fact that they actually brought them in and convinced them to do like cameos, I think that the whole they're banking on the nostalgic factor.
But it's not good nostalgia.
No, obviously not, because they're fucking with the story like considerably. But I think that's really what they're counting on, and also the fact too that they're bringing back Ecto Cooler as a tie-in for the movie.
I would rather pay $13, but I'd rather buy $13 worth of Ecto Cooler, right, than go see this movie. Here's the thing, right? Okay, they're bringing back the original cast for cameos. What I don't understand is this is a simple fix. The Ghostbusters are too old to do this anymore. They were old when they started, so they just incorporated, and now this film follows a branch that they opened up in a part of New York, because there's ghosts everywhere, and we could follow a new ghost-busting team, and even if this movie sucked, it's still not stepping on the toes of the original. They could actually say, okay, well, the next Ghostbusters movie, we'll do Ghostbusters in London, or Ireland, or someplace around the world. We'll do a different branch of the Ghostbusters, because obviously people don't like this group, so let's try a different group. And they could keep trying. It could be like Saved by the Bell, the new class. Instead, it'll actually be successful at one point in time.
Well, apparently the original idea for the next Ghostbusters movie, and I don't know if it's true or not, but one of the original ideas I heard that they had for
original ideas funny.
For all original, but one of the ideas that I was reading online for a potential third Ghostbusters movie before they decided to go with the whole like reboot is when the original cast was still involved, the little kid from this Ghostbusters 2, obviously now being an adult,
would be a new Ghostbuster.
Would be one of the new Ghostbusters.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because that would have been even like they could have done a very simple cameo of the original cast, still playing obviously the same characters, but playing like very minor roles, kind of similar to the way they did with in the new Star Wars movie. Obviously, they had like the original actors. Yeah, it was a passing. They could have done like a passing of the torch type thing, where the original actors were there. They just did minor supporting roles, and it focused primarily on the newer cast, like the whole passing of the torch thing. That would have been a perfect idea.
And then
You
when
know who
that
could have
new
played
cast,
Oscar, right?
you could have gotten the same kid, all just grown up.
I was singing, what's his name? Scott Pilgrim.
Michael Cera.
Yeah, Michael Cera.
I mean, you could anyone really.
It's possible that could have.
It's funny.
He
It's
would have
funny
been
because
about the same age, maybe a little younger.
it's funny because I actually wrote a Ghostbusters. It's not fan fiction. I wrote a Ghostbusters story after Harold Ramis died because I missed him so much. I'm like, it'd be really cool if they did a Ghostbusters film and it started off with Egon's funeral, and it turns out that Egon's niece like inherited all his work and he was researching something that got him killed, which you could bring him back as a ghost, and the whole film starts off at his funeral. Everyone reunites. And then, baby Oscar's all grown up, and he was like a student in Egon's class. Kind of like Extreme Ghostbusters, but with a new twist to it. And you could have done like something really special where the fans have felt like, you know what? They did a respectful thing. The one thing that I hope this movie does not fucking do, it says at the end, in memory of Harold Ramis. If they do that shit, right, I'm done. Because they're only...
Wait.
No, but they'll probably try and do that to appease the fans and be like, "Oh, we care about the fans." No, you don't.
Well, that's why they That's why they have the actors and the original actors in cameos, because like, oh, we care.
Oh no, because they're trying to sell the movie.
Yeah.
That's why they had to hold up on the movie because they had to go shoot those cameos. I'm saying though, right? They should have jumped on this when they were able to get the original cast together to do that video game, which was essentially the plot that Dan Aykroyd had for Ghostbusters 3, but they couldn't do it because it would have been too expensive, and CG wasn't the best back then. And then by the time CG became what it was, they were like, "Oh, I don't think people want to see a new Ghostbusters. This is too much of an expensive. This is too much of a risk." Even though this new Ghostbusters movie costs like $154 million for like production budget.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost damn near $200 million if you factor in marketing. I don't know how much marketing they've done. So they really need to make a lot of money with this. And in a month where people are going to go see Independence Day, and they're going to go see Star Trek, and the horror fans are going to go see The Purge, which is the same demographic that would like Ghostbusters because the first one kind of had horror elements to it, this movie's not going to make that much money. And then people would have already, by that time, seen X-Men, Civil War, Batman vs. Superman, and they would be getting ready to go see Harley fucking Quinn in Suicide Squad. Because Margot Robbie, Jesus Christ, oh my God, she looks awesome. She's perfect for the role. So I posted on Facebook the other day, I'm like, you know what? Looking at her as Harley Quinn, you could easily cast her as Tank Girl. First of all, Tank Girl takes place in Australia. She has a New Zealand accent. Fucking close enough, right? She can act her ass off.
If they ever were to do like a reboot of Tank Girl, I think she would be the perfect choice.
She'd be perfect. You know what I mean? You could even bring Lori Petty back as like the villain.
No, she's done.
She could come back as the villain. Be like, yeah, I never had an accent. But anyway, so yeah, we weren't particularly happy with the film. We're gonna wrap this up for real, hopefully. And it's like, we were just, it was. You got to have popcorn and a drink, so you kind of had a merry old time. Because at the very least, you're like, you could take your mind off of watching it and just eat it. It was an okay movie. I really just wish that they would have marketed it as something fresh, because what horror really does need are fresh new ideas. Because damn it, man, we need a new marketable, franchisable character. Hopefully, Trick or Treat 2, they put it in theaters this time. They don't fuck it up, and we could kind of like
they will.
Sam.
Considering how good Krampus did, and it's made by the same director, it obviously did
Krampus
well
was
enough.
good.
I think they'll absolutely put Trick or Treat 2 in theaters.
Because they market the hell out of Sam as a character, and people and that movie didn't have a theatrical release. It was supposed to. They kept pushing it back.
No, it ended up just being straight to DVD.
So,
but it definitely has obviously the cult following.
Do it this time. Put it out in October. And let the horror fans go see it. It's a movie called fucking Trick or Treat. Put it out around Halloween. People will go see it. How do you think Saw survived all those years? October. You didn't see him saying, you know what? I like the success of Saw 2. Let's go up against those big comic book movies in the summertime. No, it's like, put it in October.
Because in movies like Saw, they knew the audience they were obviously marketing to. And they knew who was going to go see it. So that's why they released it in the time frames that they did. Because they knew people behind it, like James Wan, Lee Warnell. think that's how you pronounce his last
Wow,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, like they knew their audience, so they knew what they were getting into.
Yeah, like when Rob Zombie released his Halloween in August, I'm like, why? Put it out in fucking October.
That's close enough, though. It
It
wasn't.
has topless Danielle Harrison. I would have seen it either way, but it would have felt a little bit special if I could have got a pumpkin spice latte afterwards.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, it was cool for you guys listening to our rant on this not so great but not bad at all movie. I feel like if you guys go into it not expecting Cloverfield, you'll probably enjoy it more than we did. So we're going to tell you guys right now, unfortunately, it's not directly tied to Cloverfield, and just try to enjoy it for what it is. I will say this, there was a couple of really suspenseful moments, and John Goodman was awesome. Like when that guy, that time, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting it because I thought that guy was going to go there, but instead he got it right there. And I'm just being vague because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. But at the very least, if you come across it in a Redbox or it's on Netflix, you should definitely check it out. But if you want to pay $13 for it, I would suggest a matinee. You know, matinee might work for you, but then that's a little bit more effort because you got to wake up early on a weekend to see that shit or your day off. So, I mean, it's up to you. We're just letting you guys know that we didn't particularly enjoy it as much as we thought we were going to. And that's okay because, you know, sometimes movies disappoint you, and hopefully the next horror film I see, which is The Purge, will not. But in the meantime, if you guys have not seen it, I will recommend Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. That was pretty damn enjoyable film. It's a horror comedy, and I feel like you guys would probably, you know what? Treat it as a chaser. Go see Cloverfield. Watch Scouts afterwards if you haven't.
And also go see Cooties.
Yes. And then, you know what? You will feel a little bit better overall because you have seen 3 good films or 2 good films and 1 okay film. But don't go see 1 okay film and not see anything good after it.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. Later.
Peace.
Later.